From Iraq to Iran. Ahead of reviving Iran nuclear deal, International Atomic Energy Agency has made shocking revelations over Iran's nuclear program. Now, according to an IAEA report, Iran has begun uranium enrichment with new advanced centrifuges at the country's underground Natanz nuclear site. Now, according to United Nations Nuclear Watchdog's report, accessed by Reuters, Iran is in the middle of enriching uranium through IR6 centrifuges, which are far more efficient and can more easily switch between enrichment levels. The country's most advanced centrifuges can enrich uranium to at least 60%, which is nearly weapons grade. Iran has been using its existing devices as an above-ground site in Natanz for that purpose for nearly a year. In July, Iran had announced it was using new IR6 centrifuges to enrich uranium to 20%. However, in June, the IAEA reported that Iran had 43 kilograms of uranium enriched to 60% purity, a short step to 90%, considered as weapons grade. Experts warn that the present quantity of enriched uranium with Iran is enough for one nuclear weapon. Under the terms of its 2015 nuclear agreement with world powers, Iran is only permitted to enrich uranium to 3.67% purity. The deal gave Iran sanctions relief in return for curbs on its nuclear program to prevent the production of a weapon. However, after the Trump administration pulled the U.S. out of the so-called Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action in 2018 and reimposed its own sanctions, in response, Iran dropped many of its commitments to the pact and ramped up its uranium enrichment. The IAEA's report came in the backdrop of talks to revive the 2015 nuclear deal that was said to be closing in on an agreement headed by the European Union acting as a negotiator between the parties. Last week, US reviewed the final agreement laid down by the EU and reverted to it. Tehran, too, has responded with its own remarks. Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi said that safeguard issues need to be resolved before reaching an agreement between Iran and world powers, while emphasizing on lifting anti-Iran sanctions and unfreezing Iranian assets abroad.
Those who abandoned their commitments should return and fulfill their obligations. They promised to remove the sanctions on Iran but didn't deliver. Our emphasis in these negotiations is on the removal of sanctions.
Meanwhile, Israel has piled pressure on Western countries to halt talks on reviving the agreement, warning against the consequences. Israel believes that Iran would use the money from agreement for its nuclear program and terrorism. Israel National Intelligence Agency's Mossad chief David Barnea will travel to Washington next week as part of the efforts to shape the deal. Iran insists its program is for peaceful purposes. However, United Nations experts and Western intelligence agencies believe that Iran had an organized military nuclear program through 2003. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.